Hello everybody, this is Alex Merced from AlexMercedCoder.dev and welcome to the second video of this build. So in the first video we did our setup, a couple little quick housekeeping things. There is one more library I wanted to install, so that's npm install cookie parser. Now this is middleware for parsing a cookie, because the reason is the way I'm going to implement JWT authentication for this one is we're going to use an HTTP only cookie. So in previous videos where I've implemented JWT-Auth, what we've done is we just send the token in the response to the login request, and then we put the onus on the front end to deliver that token with all the requests by delivering it as a bearer token in the header. Okay, this creates two potential issues. Still a very typical pattern, but the two potential issues that you would have to kind of like figure out how you want to wrestle with is that one, the front end has the extra work of having to make sure that is included with every request, and two, that token is now accessible in the front end. And typically what you would do is you'd store it in like local storage, which, local storage is accessible from JavaScript, which creates certain possible security issues if someone could like sneakily sneak JavaScript onto your page. So by having it as an HTTP only cookie, okay, the cookie is automatically going to be sent with all requests once the cookie is generated, so we don't have to worry about the front end thinking about whether the cookie is being delivered or not. It'll automatically be added onto the request. And two, since it's an HTTP only cookie, any front end JavaScript can't access the cookie. So that way, if someone sneaks JavaScript onto your page, they can't manipulate the token to have the authorization to do things that you don't want them to do. Okay, so it's more secure, and it's going to be easier on the front end. It does require us to do a few extra steps here in the back end. One of those is to have the cookie parsing middleware. So I'm going to head over to server.js, and in my middleware, we're going to add the cookie parser. So actually, I got to go import it. So I'm going to go import cookie parser from cookie parser. So we're going to import that, and then we're just going to add that middleware. app.use cookie parser. I'm pretty sure that's how it looks like. I have this tutorial about exactly how to build out this version of Backend Auth in Express, which the link is going to be in the videos for this build, so you'll be able to refer to it there. But just to kind of show you what I did here, so we included the cookie parser middleware right there. Okay, we already have the other middleware, so we're good there. And what that's going to do is just that it's going to check to see if there's a cookie and just interpret in the same way that Express.json checks if there's a body. This is going to check if there's a cookie, and we'll be able to access it through like rec.cookie. So that way, it's just going to be easier for us to check, hey, are we authenticated? Okay. Okay. Now that we have the cookie parser in place, so that'll parse any cookies. Right now, we don't necessarily have any cookies because we don't have any responses, because cookies are not set at the front end. Cookies are set from the back end. So even though cookies are stored in the browser, like local storage, the front end JavaScript is what sets what's in local storage. It's the back end responses that set what's inside cookies. That's kind of like one of the fundamental differences between them. Okay, so but now we'll be able to like use cookies, and that'll be cool. So we have our cookie. Great. Now we want to do is set up our database connection. So I'm going to head over here and create a few files like a connection.js. We'll set up like a seed.js. And that's good there. So here in our connection.js, we're going to import .env from .env. We're going to import mongoose from mongoose. We're going to, anything else I think I need here? I think I'm good there. So then we're going to set up our connection. So first we're going to get those .env variables. So .env.config. And then I'm going to pull out the variables that I want to grab. So const database URL is going to equal process.env.database URL. And then we're going to connect to the database. So mongoose.connect database URL. Okay, so we connect to the database. Then what I'm going to want to do is set up, these connection messages. So I'm going to just say mongoose.connection.on. Actually, I want to do these in separate lines. It's easier to read. So on open, so when we open a connection, what I want to do is just do a console log that says, you are listening, Mongo is connected. Okay. And then here we'll do like Mongo is disconnected. And this will be when the connection closes. And this will be when the connection errors. And that particular event receives an error object. How do I know that? From the documentation. Okay, and then I want to console log that error object. Okay, so we have that. And that's pretty much it. That should establish our connection. So then what I'm going to do is export the connection. So we'll just do export default mongoose. Cool. So that should be it there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to import that connection. So import mongoose from the connection file. So you notice here, like I'm importing it from connection, not from the mongoose library. So that way it has to run that other file. It has to run connection.js first, which is going to establish that connection. Because whenever you import something from another file, that file runs first. So that's going to establish our connection. And this is just going to be for me to test, because seed's going to always run separate. But really, honestly, all I care about now is just to see if the connection happens. So I'm going to just do npm run seed, because that's supposed to run that specific file. Again, if I go back to my package.json, again, whenever I do npm run seed, it's going to run seed.js. So I'll just run that. Okay, and what does it say? Cannot find module db/seed.js. Okay. Did I name it something wrong? db/seed.js. Let's see if it happens if I put the slash there. I don't think that's necessary, but router backend /db/seed.js. So when I take a look here, the video path, it is playing the right path. I guess maybe because there's no code in it. So let's just do this. Import console.log hello. Error capture stack trace. Try that again. Okay, that isn't working the way I'd expect it to work. Try this one more time. So I'll just run it manually. Node db/seed.js. Still saying node. Okay, module not found because it's saying what it's not finding. Oh, it cannot find connection. Okay, here's why. Whenever you're using modules, you have to put the file extension, so that has to say .js. So that should fix it. There we go. And Mongo is connected, so it's working. I'm connecting to Mongo, so yay. Again, I'm using a local URL. If you have like mongodb.com database, you can just use that URL. But the idea is that, hey, I can see the message here that Mongo is connected, so I can confirm that the connection works. I can cancel out of this, Control C, and good. I don't need to do anything else with the seed right now. What I do want to do is create some models. So I'm going to head over here to my model file. I'm just going to create one model. We'll call it dog. I'm not going to really spend, or we'll just call it notes. I really don't want to like spend too much time belaboring the point. Notes.js. So then here we would import the mongoose from the connection. So import mongoose from the connection. But again, we got to make sure we add the .js, because by default, VS Code is going to try to import it as if we were using CommonJS. And CommonJS, with the requires and the exports, it's going to assume that .js is the file extension, but ES module syntax does not. So you got to make sure you add the .js. Okay, so import that. I'm going to go grab schema and model out of there. So that way I don't have to type mongoose.schema, because who wants to type that? Then we're going to create a note schema. So a schema for our notes, which will be a new schema. And it's just going to have a couple properties. We're just going to have basically title, which is going to be a string, and message, which will be a string, and then we're going to have a username, which will also be a string. Okay, cool. And then we will create our model. Const note equals model note schema, and then we'll export default note. We're also going to want to have a user model, so new file user.js that represent users. Okay, and basically going to be the same deal here, except this is going to be user. This will be user. Let's make these right changes. User, except users are going to have primarily two fields: username, which is going to be a type of string, and it is going to be required, and it has to be unique. So everyone has to have a different username. And then there's going to be password, which is also a string. It is also required, but it does not have to be unique because people can have the same password. They just need to not know each other's passwords. So, but that should be spelled correctly, password. Okay, and then that's all. You know, if you want to add like other fields like email, whatever, you can add those. But then I'm also going to add the timestamps. So timestamps true, and I'm going to add that over to the notes as well. It's never bad to have the timestamps. I mean, unless you really don't need them, and then you can save yourself the space of saving them. But then, okay, once we have the new schema, the user schema, then I have to change this to user, and this to user schema, and then we export user. So there we have our user and note models. Okay, wonderful. Okay, nice. So then in that case, what I could do is if I really wanted to seed some data, I could, you know, import that model into seed and like create a sample user and all this stuff. I'm not going to, but theoretically that's what the seed file would be there for. So I can start generating some stuff. Okay, I will leave it at that. In the next video, we'll actually do all the routes and create all the sort of the backend routes and set all that up, like all the auth routes, etc. So I'll see you guys in the next video.